Well, President Obama's not going to be happy with my statement about, well, having to peddle some fiction. Mr. Obama, I apologize. I'm going to peddle some fiction here. I guess Harvard, you can include them as well. Zero Hedge article. Harvard crushes the Obama recovery farce with 9 simple charts. A couple of months back, we posted 9 charts that, at least in our minds, debunk the myth of Obama recovery despite suggestions from the administration that any such efforts were just a futile attempt at peddling fiction, as he said. Turns out that Harvard likes to also dabble in fiction peddling as well. Let's just take a little peek. If you want to take a look at this chart, I'll put it up here. Labor force participation, male labor force participation, job creation, new business formation, productivity, household income by county, trust in politicians, entitlements versus investments. Everything on this page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 charts. These, when they say, oh, Obama's done such a great job. We've got 5% unemployment, man. We're down to 5% unemployment. This guy is great. Nobel Peace Prize, Mr. Nobel Peace Prize himself. These are things that somehow they must not look at when factoring whatever the hell they factor to come up with 5% unemployment. Or even saying, yeah, we've been recovering. We're in a recovery. The recession's done. We officially ended that in 2009, April. And it's been in recovery mode ever since. So a recovery mode means even not even necessarily a sharp inclination, just a steady one, slight, maybe below average, but at least an inclination. Nope. These charts show you everything's worse than terrible. Okay? That's what these charts show you. Just look at them. We'll get a little different view as well. In a recent study entitled Problems Unsolved and Nation Divided, the study can be viewed in its entirety at the end of this post. And I think I'm going to link this article for you guys. Harvard University points out that despite claims of an Obama recovery, in fact, the U.S. economy has continued to deteriorate in the aftermath of the Great Recession. Among other things, Harvard attributes the economic deterioration to a lack of economic strategy, especially at the federal level, and a political system was once the envy of many nations, but has now become the greatest liability. Let me get rid of this thing. America's economic performance peaked in the late 1990s. An erosion in crucial economic indicators, such as the rate of economic growth, productivity growth, job growth, and investment, began well before the Great Recession. See, so there was already a trend anyways. Workforce participation. The proportion of Americans in the productive workforce peaked up when Bill Clinton when Bill Clinton was in charge. I thought everything was great when he was in charge. If I had $1 for every time a person said to me, oh, you voting for Clinton? Not that there's a lot of those people, but when they do say it. What's the main reason? 2 reasons come across. Well, I know business was really good for me back when he was in charge, so that's why I'm voting. And the other response? Man, I know what gas prices were when he was in charge. That's why I'm voting for the Clintons. So let me get this straight. A president sets the price of gas. A president sets the price of gas. Wrong. The Bankers Club sets the price of gas across the world, the world's gas price, on Wall Street every day. Technically, it's the NYMEX, but same difference. Those pieces of paper, those derivatives, set the price of a barrel of oil every day. Workforce participation the proportion of Americans in the productive workforce peaked in 1997. With fewer working-age men and women in the workforce, per capita income for the U.S. is reduced. Now, isn't that late 1990s, mid-90s when we started hearing about NAFTA, CAFTA, all these trade agreements starting to come out and offshoring started to begin? Isn't that interesting? Median real household income has declined since 1999, with incomes stagnating across virtually all income levels. Despite a welcome jump in 2015, median household income remains below the peak attained in 1999, 17 years ago. Moreover, stagnating income and limited job prospects have disproportionately affected lower income and lower skilled Americans, leading inequality to rise. Meanwhile, Harvard points out that pessimism about the trajectory of U.S. competitiveness deepened in 2016 for the first time in 5 years. Pessimism about the trajectory of U.S. competitiveness deepened in 2016 for the first time since we started surveying alumni in 2011. 50% of the business leaders surveyed expect U.S. competitiveness to decline in the coming 3 years, while 30% foresee improvement and 20% say no change. Harvard argues that one of the primary causes of the sustained economic downturn has been a lack of an economic strategy from the federal government, which has instead chosen to rely exclusively on accommodative Fed policies. The U.S. lacks an economic strategy, especially at the federal level. The implicit strategy has been to trust the Federal Reserve to solve our problems through monetary policy. We assume Chuck Schumer agrees with that characterization because he was the one that was telling Bernanke to get to work. Meanwhile, Harvard points out that the other key affliction of the U.S. economy is a completely broken political system that is no longer delivering good results for the average American. The U.S. political system was once the envy of many nations. Over the last 2 decades, however, it has become the greatest liability. Americans no longer trust their political leaders, and political polarization has increased dramatically. Americans are increasingly frustrated with the U.S. political system. Independents now account for 42% of Americans, a greater percentage than that of either major party. The political system is no longer delivering good results for the average American. Numerous indicators point to failure to compromise and deliver practical solutions to the nation's problems. Political polarization has especially made it harder to build consensus on sensible economic policies that address key U.S. weaknesses. It is at the root of our inability to progress on the consensus 8-point plan. With that, here's a look at some of our favorite charts. The first, labor force participation rate, has continued to decline after the Great Recession and currently stands at the lowest level since 1982. Take a little peek at that one, in case you want to follow along. But the total labor participation rate over the past couple of decades has benefited from women entering the workforce. If you just look at male labor force participation, the drop-off is even more pronounced. The key problem is that job creation has failed to recover to the levels experienced prior to the Great Recession. And there you see it. It really, you look at this, it really started at the dot-com bubble burst. That was it. That's when this whole thing really started. But then 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 come in. Ooh. And that's just nasty. Meanwhile, labor productivity has collapsed as well. Again, downward trend big time. And of course, poor job growth and declining participation rates results in lower real household income. Per the chart below, the only counties across the country, which let's pull that one back up, that have experienced real income growth in recent years has been areas where the economy is dominated by oil production. Ironically, the industry that Obama has tried hardest to crush, as evidenced by his recent decision to unilaterally halt the construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline. So yeah, that is interesting. Everywhere else it's not good. And moreover, people in the lowest income brackets, those Obama claims to care most about, have suffered the most under his presidency. While stalling in the early 2000s, entitlement spending has soared under the Obama presidency as investment has declined. Now that chart is not pretty. 1962, spending were probably, from the looks of this, about 14%. And today, we're nearing 55%. So 14%, 1962, we're nearing 55% nowadays. Everything that I'm telling you about, reading to you right now, not only is a recipe for disaster, we're far past that, but this cannot continue. It won't continue. It will stop, either by force or by the politicians doing something, and the things that they have to do, no politician likes to do, so they don't do it, which means it goes back to plan A. It's going to stop by force. Not going to be a good day. Meanwhile, the Harvard survey finds that all of Obama's major policy initiatives were identified as key reasons for our underperforming economy, including a healthcare, high personal income taxes, high corporate taxes, and a burdensome regulatory environment. Well, that depends on who you're regulating. If you're talking about Wall Street and the club, there's no issues there. And they don't care about high corporate taxes because they find ways to write off everything somehow, or they qualify for some loophole that only they qualify for, and they pay almost nothing in taxes. So, sorry for peddling fiction today, but if fiction has to be peddled to get the truth out, I don't know how you have fiction and truth together, but if that's what it takes to get the truth out, labor force participation, male labor force participation, job creation, new business formation, productivity, household income by county, trust in politicians, and entitlements versus investments. Because that entitlement thing I showed you, the exact opposite happened for investments. Oh, it's 14% up to 55? Well, it was up higher, then dropped way down lower. Matter of fact, what was the actual investments? 35%. Down to 14 to 15%. Again, this is when I say this is the end of the New Age Roman Empire. This is the collapse of the New Age Roman Empire. I'm not kidding. I'm not just saying that to, be catchy or something. This is the declination of your nation. Do whatever you can do to make as much money as you can to protect your wealth. Buy some precious metals with that extra money. This does not end well. It can't. History says it will not. And this is one of those things where your bank account demands and tells you also that it can't happen. But I really want to get that. Your bank account says you can't. But I really want it. Okay, you can want it as much as you want, but the reality is the money's not in your bank account. So when you swipe that card, prepare to be embarrassed because it's going to say insufficient funds. In our case, we don't have to have insufficient funds. We just print more money and tack on more debt and kick the can down the road. And all that debt that we accumulate, we got to keep paying interest on. Every dollar that's borrowed into existence, and that's the only way we get our money, it has to be borrowed into existence, there's interest attached to it. But they never print the interest. So how can, if $1 that's printed and it has a usable value of $1, or in this case we'll call it 100 pennies, right? To be accurate here, $1, 100 pennies, and let's just say it costs $1.05 or 105 pennies in interest, because you got to pay that interest to pay it back. So I borrow $1, 100 pennies. I have to come up with 105 pennies to pay you back. But the 5 pennies was never printed at the time. So how do I pay it back? I have to go borrow more money. So now I got $2, but I owe $2.10. So I get $3, but now I owe $3.10. But as long as I keep getting that dollar, once I borrow that dollar into existence, I pay back the previous debt with it. But it becomes fractionalized because I'm owing more and more and more debt, interest, as I'm printing more and more of these dollars. Again, if you haven't seen the documentary, The Secret of Oz, Bill Still is the creator of that. It's fantastic. He explains how to solve all this. You don't even need gold, precious metals. You just need a government to be able to print money without borrowing it into existence. They can pay for everything. You just print it. You don't owe it to anybody. You don't owe any interest. You owe nothing. You print it to take care of all government services. Which would mean what? Kiss income tax goodbye. Why do they need to collect it if they can print their own and pay for all of the government bills? That's exactly right. Kiss that goodbye. Oh, I need to get a driver's license fee. Oh man, they raised it again. Jesus Christ, it keeps going up every freaking year. My tags, everything, title fees. Jesus Christ. Hey, calm down. This new system, there's no such thing as that anymore. You just go in there, and the government workers are there like they are now, getting paid through the printable government money. You don't have to come up with anything, sir. If you need 5 different things today, driver's license, new title, got an RV, got a book, come on down. We will take care of you. And, sir, I'd like to remind you, you're going to get the best and fastest service you ever had. Really? At the driver's light, the DMV? Yes, sir. Okay, how is that going to be possible? Well, since we have unlimited funding, we can hire a whole bunch of people to be here, even on the slower days. Doesn't matter. We can hire as many people. Oh, and by the way, sir, when there's a recession, those things won't even happen anymore, by the way. But I'm going to pretend that, just so you understand what I'm talking about, I'll call it a recession. Because in the private sector, if a recession occurs, the government side of it, we just hire more people throughout the entire government of the entire United States of America. So local, state, city, federal, all of it. We just open the doors for a few more employees each. And we'll scoop up everybody. There'll be no problem, no more recessions. And then when things kind of change, people may say, well, it's nice working for the government and all, but I don't want to do this. I want to go find something else to do. And I go in the back of the private sector. There's one problem with this. Could you imagine the people who are in charge right now, these selfish, rotten bastards, getting a hold of a system like that? You think Hillary and them are giving away money now? John Kerry, everybody, giving out, $800 million website contract for Obamacare to his buddies? You think that was outrageous when it should have cost maybe $1 million to $2 million at the most? You think $800 million was outrageous? It is. It's beyond outrageous. But if you can print unlimited funds, no interest attached, no nothing, we don't borrow it, that website could have cost $10, $20 billion. So then you have these same people literally making and breaking people. We're going to give all of our club members the best contracts, and we're going to pay them like you can't believe. Anybody else get lost, you're in the private sector, have a nice day. Our buddies are in the private sector, but they work directly with us, government, military industrial complex, pharmaceutical industrial complex, those guys. And we take care of our own. However, even with that on your mind, it's still 1,000,000 times better than what we have now. Why? There'll be no more pension problems. There'll be no more, we don't have a Social Security. You've got more Social Security than you can imagine. You've got a printing press, and there's no interest attached. You don't owe the money to anybody. You're not borrowing it. You're just printing it. Oh, we're not going to do 2% inflation this year. Yeah, we are. Excuse me, we're going to do a 5% increase. Older folks, how do you like that? 5% increase on your Social Security this year. You guys happy about that? Yeah! Didn't cost us anything. We're just printing more money. This one's on Jason for president. Take care, guys. It'd be that easy. But again, they would spend it and use it like drunken sailors. And you think the corruption and fraud's bad now. You wouldn't see nothing. Or you haven't seen nothing. But again, I think I'd rather take that knowing everything would be paid for than dealing with what we were doing now, because we're dealing with that crap anyways. So anything to lighten the load on the taxpayer, on people. Take care.